Okay, listen. Picture this. You're in a hospital bed. You can't even move. And while you're laying there, your own brother, your blood, goes outside and forges your signature, takes your artist, and millions of dollars from a Drake song just disappear. And then when you try to fight back in court, that artist goes on the internet and calls you greedy. This is Boosie Badazz's story, and today we're breaking the whole thing down. So let's start from where this whole thing blew up. Young Bleu, his real name is Reese Archibald. He came on Jim Jones's podcast. Now, Jim Jones is an OG from Harlem, big platform. And Young Bleu came on there ready, like way too ready. Jim Jones barely even asked, and this dude just started telling his version of the Boosie story on his own. And here's the thing, the story Young Bleu told, it was completely different from what Boosie has been saying for years on Vlad TV, in interviews, on social media. Young Bleu's version, Boosie was greedy. Boosie blocked the partnership. Boosie was the reason the deal fell apart.
Now, he was really eager, like almost too eager to speak on his Boosie situation. Jim Jones ain't even have to ask twice. This man was ready. So as Young Bleu is telling the story, he's painting Boosie as the villain in this story, as somebody who was too greedy, and his greed essentially got in the way of their partnership and their business. Now, the story that Young Bleu told is an entirely different story than the story that Boosie has told on Vlad TV for years. And as Young Bleu is telling the story, Jim Jones is slightly instigating, gassing it up like, ooh, really? Man, tell it. So
after that clip, Boosie's blood had to be boiling. And it was. Boosie went straight at Jim Jones on Twitter. He wrote, "Jim Jones, this dude lied to you, and you gassed him up to lie even more." Now, personally, I don't think Jim Jones did anything that crazy wrong. He ran an interview, laughed a little, asked questions. That's what podcast hosts do. But Boosie's anger makes sense because Jim Jones and Boosie had a relationship. And when someone you know gives a platform to a wrong story about you, that hurts different. But before we even get to Jim Jones, we need to understand the actual situation first. Let's go back. Young Bleu was signed to Boosie, Boosie's label Badazz Music Syndicate, and Boosie's brother TK, he was Young Bleu's manager. That right there is important. One person, TK, was on both sides at the same time. He was Boosie's brother, and he was Young Bleu's manager. That conflict of interest is so big that in court, that point alone matters a lot. Now, this was a time when Young Bleu had real momentum. He was on the Billboard charts. He had a song coming with Drake, and Empire Records, a major distribution company, was offering Young Bleu a couple $1 million for a deal. Now, legally, Young Bleu was signed to Boosie. That means Boosie was supposed to get a cut of the Empire deal. That's just how the music business works. This wasn't a gray area.
Young Bleu was signed to Boosie. Young Bleu's manager was Boosie's brother TK. Somebody, Empire, came to Young Bleu with a couple of $1 million. Because that's the time when Young Bleu had the Drake song, he was popping, he was on Billboard. Empire came to Young Bleu and offered him a couple of $1 million. Boosie was supposed to get a cut out of the Empire deal that Young Bleu signed, because again, Young Bleu was signed to Boosie. But Boosie's brother TK, according to Boosie, forged his signature and got Young Bleu released from out the deal to sign an Empire deal. And now Boosie got to fight in court to prove his signature was forged and that Young Bleu owed him millions of dollars because he was still signed to him.
Boosie is saying TK forged his signature, cut Boosie out of the Empire deal, and got Young Bleu signed to Empire without Boosie seeing a single dollar. And all of this happened while Boosie was in the hospital, shot, in a wheelchair.
And I was done wrong. And around pissed off, I was done wrong while I was shot in a wheelchair.
That's when it happened?
In a wheelchair. That's why that's why.
Oh, they thought maybe you were just out of here and was just
went far, did all this stuff when I was in a wheelchair. And that's what really pissed me off about the situation. I would have took Bleu to any label and tried to get him, but they did all this when I was in a wheelchair. And you bring me 100,000 like you doing this for me, helping your career, when you done went got this money from Empire and you bringing me this.
The video where you brought you the cash.
Yeah, thinking you just looking out for me, but no, you done went, gave all my away, and you bringing me and got some money from Empire, and you bringing me this. It's just wrong, bro.
Think about it for a second. Boosie Badazz, a rapper from Baton Rouge, gets shot. He's in a wheelchair. He's somewhere between living and dying, and at that exact moment, his own blood, his brother TK, goes out and makes a deal. forges his signature, gets Young Bleu signed for millions, and then on top of all that, Young Bleu shows up to Boosie with $100,000. Like, he's doing Boosie a favor. Like, he's helping him out, when really, he already pocketed millions and brought Boosie the leftovers. Think about that. You're in a hospital. You don't even know what's happening outside. And a deal is being made with your name, with your signature that isn't even real. That's not just betrayal, that's something else. And then Young Bleu goes on the internet and calls Boosie greedy. Real talk, if someone did this to you while you were laid up in a hospital bed and then called you greedy, after what would you feel? Now, I want to be fair here. Young Bleu does have a point, and I'm going to be honest about that. Young Blue's argument is that Boosie never put real money into his career. No marketing budget, no signing bonus, no investment. Boosie gave him a cosign, Vlad TV appearances, features, connections. And Young Bleu says you can't take 40% of someone's deal just for a cosign.
Because I didn't even have to offer you $2 million. You know what I'm saying? I just did that just off the respect. I just felt like that just like, if you had an artist, right? If you had an artist, I just come back. You had an artist, right? You weren't really putting no money behind them, right? And y'all went to sign to another label, and y'all went to sign to Columbia or whatever. Columbia dropped the artist. You know what I'm saying? They dropped the artist, and the artist like, man, I don't know what to do, man. It seemed like it's just going, I'm you feel me? Man, I need about 100, 150, so I want to do all this stuff right here and we could take off. If you don't got it, or if you don't want to do that, bruh, just let me out my deal, bro. We can sign a release right now. Let's work on it. We work on the release for 6 months.
Okay, hearing that, you can see why Young Bleu felt a certain way. But, and this is a big but, if you didn't agree with the deal, if you wanted to be released, there was a process. That process was already moving. Lawyers were emailed. Months of conversations were happening about a release. Now, here's my personal theory, and this is just my take. I think release talks were happening. Boosie and Young Bleu were going back and forth on terms. Boosie hadn't officially signed off yet. TK, who knew both sides, knew that Drake's song was coming. And TK figured if Boosie signs this release properly, his brother is going to get a real cut of those Drake song millions. TK didn't let that happen. This is the part people miss until you lay it all out. TK was sitting in two chairs at the same time. On one side, he was Boosie's brother, his blood, his family. On the other side, he was Young Bleu's manager. He handled Young Bleu's career. He made Young Bleu's deals. So tell me, if you're a manager and your artist has a Drake song on the way, what do you want? You want your artist to make the most money possible. And if Boosie was in that deal, Boosie gets a cut. TK chose to go against his own brother.
I think they had the release already in place. TK, being Young Bleu's manager, knew the Drake song was coming down the pipeline. TK didn't want Boosie to get $1 out of that Drake song, because TK and Boosie been had, TK has snaked Boosie out of a lot of money. They already been had issues. So TK, being Boosie's brother and Young Bleu's manager, he was working both sides. He knew the inner label business and he knew Young Bleu's business. TK, understanding that Drake song was coming down the pipeline, he forged that signature and pushed that release through fast as before that Drake song came. Because Boosie did not sign that release paper when he was in the hospital shot up. That don't even make sense.
And this isn't just someone's opinion, it's based on the timeline. Boosie was in the hospital when that signing happened. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to seriously believe that Boosie was sitting in a wheelchair after getting shot and signing music business paperwork. That doesn't make sense. That's why Boosie's case is strong in court. Because the timing of that signature and Boosie's medical condition at that exact time, that's all on record. Now let's talk number. Because up until now, you might have thought this was a few $100,000 situation. No. Boosie revealed on Twitter the deal was $5 million. $5 million plus Drake's song royalties and revenue on top of that.
EQ blaming me, saying he couldn't get in touch with me with $5 million on the table. So apparently it was a $5 million deal. Or 5 M's was on the table. Now, out of that 5 M's, I don't know how much Boosie think that he deserved, because that's 5 M for the deal plus the Drake record profits and the Drake record revenue. That's crazy, man. So apparently TQ couldn't get in touch with Boosie, so he signed a contract and forged his name. This is insane, man. He goes, Empire blaming y'all for bad business and saying they didn't know you was my artist. Shaking my head, more of the story. I was effed over to all my fans Court has been going great for me.
5 million. And then Drake song revenue on top. Boosie's cut based on the label deal would have been significant. Maybe 40%. That's roughly $1.5 to $2 million straight to Boosie. And here's where it gets wild. Young Bleu himself admitted in an interview that he offered Boosie $2 million. But then in another place, he says Boosie got nothing, that Boosie didn't deserve anything. Boosie pointed that contradiction out himself.
Right now, Bleu offered me $2 million. He offered me $2 million. So did I offer you $2 million or didn't offer you nothing? You feel me? Because I didn't even have to offer you $2 million,
Bro, that clip is straight from Young Bleu's own mouth. You offer someone $2 million and then say you gave them nothing? That contradiction is so clear that in court, that clip alone could shift things. Now this is the twist nobody saw coming. Boosie wrote something in his Twitter statement, and this one line might be the most important thing in this whole case. The lawyer just did the deposition and said Boosie knew nothing about this deal. He also said he didn't talk to me about nothing. He even said what they made him do, he could have got barred for that.
He also said he didn't talk to me about nothing. He even said what they made him do, he could have got barred for that. Shaking my head. He went off at deposition on y'all bad. So the lawyer that Young Bleu apparently had get him out of the deal or work the contract, apparently that lawyer is turned on Young Bleu. Bro, it feels like Boosie about to get paid, to be honest, bro. And he continues, he says, he went off at deposition on y'all bad and my name was forged. So why are you mad at me? Be mad at Empire. They knew you was my artist and put you up against me to fight me, bro. Then stop paying your attorney fees after they put you in 5 years of lawyer debt.
Young Bleu's own lawyer, someone on his legal team, gave testimony against Young Bleu in the deposition. That's huge. Lawyers flip sometimes, but when your own lawyer sits down in a deposition and goes against you, that means there's something in this case that can't be legally defended. In my personal opinion, Boosie wins this in court. He has the timeline, he has medical records, he has the deposition, and Young Bleu's own lawyer isn't with him. Now let's come back to Jim Jones, because this part is interesting too. Boosie blasted Jim Jones directly, said, "You gassed him up to lie some more." Personally, I'm not a huge Jim Jones fan, but I'm not against him either. And in this case, I actually disagree with Boosie on this one.
I don't think Jim Jones did anything necessarily wrong during his interview. I think he asked the questions, but he laughed a little bit. But I don't think Jim Jones, antagonized to the point that Boosie should be writing paragraphs calling out Jim Jones. Boosie took to Twitter and he wrote, Jim Jones, this dude lied to you and you gassed him up to lie even more. Shaking my head. I always salute, but I don't understand how Jim Jones gassed up Young Bleu to lie some more. I'll be real, when I first heard this, I thought, man, Jim Jones definitely did that. He messy. I watched the entire portion, bro. I don't think Jim Jones did anything like that. Jim Jones asked the questions and laughed a little bit, but I don't think Jim Jones did you too grimy, bro.
Jim Jones asked questions, laughed a little, pushed a little, but that's just podcast energy. Hosts always add a little gas because they want engaging content. But Boosie's frustration still makes sense because Jim Jones and Boosie had a personal relationship. And when someone you're cool with hears a wrong story about you and doesn't really correct it, that stings. But Jim Jones is not the villain in this story. TK is. I'm gonna be straight with you. I believe Boosie. And not just emotional, logically. First, Boosie's story has been consistent. For years, Vlad TV, interviews, social media, he's been saying the same thing every time. Young Bleu's story changes. One place he offered $2 million. Another place he says he gave nothing. That inconsistency matters in court. Second, the timing. Boosie was in the hospital. He'd been shot. He was in a wheelchair. And that's exactly when the signature happened. That doesn't add up. Third, TK, Boosie's own brother, Young Bleu's manager. That conflict of interest is so obvious that if TK's role gets properly established in court, Boosie's case is almost locked. Fourth, Young Bleu's own lawyer went against him in the deposition. When your own legal team isn't on your side, that tells you everything about where the case is headed. And fifth, this is just what I personally feel. Young Bleu is a talented artist. He had the Drake song. He had real momentum. And maybe, just maybe, TK convinced him that leaving Boosie was the right move. Young Bleu believed it. They made the deal. And now both of them are dealing with the consequences. Now let's zoom out for a second. Past Boosie and Young Bleu. This isn't just two rappers beefing. This is a pattern in the music industry. An artist is hot. Someone comes along, a label, a manager, a distributor, and says, "We'll give you millions. Just sign here." The artist is young, the artist is excited. The artist doesn't have a proper legal team, and they sign. And everything that came before the original label, the original manager, the original deal, it all gets crushed. This happened with Tupac, it happened with Aaliyah, it happened with TLC, and it happens on smaller levels too, like with Boosie and Young Bleu. The industry does this, it turns artists against artists. The manager is the artist's brother, but the manager has his own interests. The label says, "We're for you," but the label has one job, make money. And when all of it hits, the artist is left alone. Boosie was in a wheelchair, physically weak, and at that exact moment, everything was systematically taken from him. This is the side of the industry people don't see until someone like Boosie stands up and says it out loud. Now you tell me in the comments, do you believe Boosie? Or does Young Bleu have a case? And think about this too, if TK really did forge that signature, Boosie's own brother was his biggest enemy. Family betrayed him, and Young Bleu went on the internet and made Boosie look like the bad guy. In the music industry, loyalty is just an illusion. If this video taught you something real, subscribe, because we're not just here to talk about drama, we're here to show you how this industry actually works. I'll catch you in the next one.